and cmd.exe will spawn again. Pretty easy. You can also use the Internet Explorer image toolbar. So I said previously that a lot of these Internet kiosks are actually based on standard Internet Explorer libraries. Now, Internet Explorer libraries contain what's called this Internet Explorer image toolbar. It's a toolbar that hovers in the top left whenever you click a really large image. And the toolbar basically has 4 little icons. The first one lets you pop up a file save dialog. The second pops up a file print dialog. We've got a file mail to. And then the last one will actually spawn explorer.exe. So it's pretty easy to check. You go to a kiosk, you look for a really large image, you click it, and you see this toolbar pops up. The toolbar pops up, you're pretty much guaranteed to win. Because you can, common dialog, Explorer. Okay, using the keyboard. Keyboard shortcuts can be used to access the host OS. So we can check if a custom keyboard driver is present. Are modifier keys enabled? Is this something that the kiosk has implemented? I found that although some of the kiosks I reviewed did implement custom keyboard drivers, not all of them did. The more cheaper products didn't. So in this case, you would actually have quite a viable and very easy attack vector. So here are all the keyboard combinations which produce common dialogues, like Control B, I, H, L. You can read from the slides. We also have kiosk-specific administrative shortcuts. All of these kiosk products actually have an admin shortcut, like Control Alt F8 9 or something like that. That'll pop up a little admin box saying, hey, enter your password and you can get access to the host OS. Obviously, you can pop up the dialog box. Maybe someone's entered a really dumb password like password and get access to the host OS. Now, browser security zones. Now, the browser security model incorporates multiple security zones. We've got the restricted site zone, the internet zone, the intranet zone, and the trusted site security zone. So each security zone adheres to a different security policy. The internet zone, for example, has less ability to interact with the host. Trusted sites and intranet zone typically have more access. So one of the things we can do with this is, as a local user, i.e. a user on a kiosk, you're actually capable of accessing all security zones, as long as you type them into the URI entry bar at the top of the page. So we can perform what's called a security zone escalation using the about pluggable protocol handler. So this is actually quite an old handler, which has quite an old bug in it, and it suffers from a cross-site scripting vulnerability. Now what this basically means is that as a user, you can use the about handler to render arbitrary content in a trusted site's security zone. Okay, so what that really boils down to is that if you type this URL, about : input type equal file into your URI entry bar, you'll get a file browse button pop up that is basically in the trusted site security zone. You click that, you can then browse the file system using a common dialog. Or you can create a link going to the file system, as I showed in the second example, and when you click that, the trusted site security zone will follow that link to the local file system. Now this is a really cool trick because most kiosk vendors only think about the internet security zone. They don't think about local security zones. So you find these other security zones are actually fully unprotected, and you can hack them pretty easily. Okay, the shell protocol handler. The shell protocol handler provides access to Windows web folders. Some more wonderful, amazing Windows functionality. So if you type into your URI bar shell : profile, it'll pop up Explorer and browse to the profile directory, or shell : Windows. So it's a good thing to check, does the kiosk block or handle the shell protocol handler? Another interesting thing I found you can do with the shell protocol handler is reference GUIDs of other controls on your Windows operating system. So for example, if you type in shell : curly brace, and then that long GUID, curly brace, you can actually evoke the Windows control panel by its class ID inside Internet Explorer. So this means, let's say the kiosk has ACLs that block you from accessing control.exe, but they allow you to use the shell protocol handler. You can render the control panel inside IE, bypass the ACLs, without having to need to spawn Explorer, which is a pretty cool trick. I didn't actually know that IE could do that. Okay, so the downside to physical input vectors. Kiosk software is designed to not trust the dude on the keyboard. This is basically what it boils down to. The kiosk user is the most obvious security threat. Hello, I am the most obvious security threat to any kiosk vendor. My research concluded that physical inputs, they're not really so successful. I got a 40 to 50% hit rate using local tricks. They're all the techniques I just told you about. Also, many of these techniques are actually already published. These are unoriginal, already researched things. I am a security researcher, and I go to security cons, and I like to talk about interesting new things I found. I don't want to harp on about this crap that you guys know about. So I sort of continued my research. I continued looking at things and trying to find a new way of hacking a kiosk. And I made a really subtle discovery, really, really subtle. I found out that a remote website is actually not factored into the kiosk security model. It's the ironic thing. So when you're standing at a kiosk, the kiosk will trust the website you're visiting more than you. I'm like, ooh, I got some trust over there. I don't have trust myself. Maybe I can exploit the remote trust. Now, kiosks actually rely on the default web browser security model. So they rely on the default way that IE is set up to protect users when they browse a remote website. So I was like, well, I know what I need. I need a kiosk hacking website. I need a website I can visit from a kiosk that will provide me with all the resources and all the tools I need to hack that kiosk. An online tool you can visit that will basically own a kiosk. So I wrote this thing called ICAT, the Interactive Kiosk Attack Tool. It's first of its kind. This is a brand new method of hacking internet kiosks. And it's really fast, really, really fast. ICAT can pop shell in less than 30 seconds on practically any Windows kiosk product. Works very, very well. And it has a 95 to 100% success rate. I've only found a couple of cases where I've been unable to hack a kiosk. Now, this is actually publicly available. It's free. It's online right now. It's at icat.ha.cked.net. Basically, the rest of this talk is going to be demonstrating and talking about the new attack vectors that ICAT uses. Then I'm going to demo ICAT in use and show you how wonderful and kick-ass it is. OK, so what can ICAT do? Well, I thought to myself, you know, when I stand up at a kiosk terminal, the first thing I really want to know is what type of a terminal am I playing with? So I want to have some reconnaissance information. I want to know, like, what kiosk products I'm playing against, what apps are installed, what attack vectors do I have. So I found a pretty cool technique using JavaScript and the resource protocol handler, is that you can enumerate bitmaps out of PE resources, and then determine if the bitmap exists as to whether or not the executable exists. And if the executable exists, you know that the application is installed. So using this little JavaScript snippet, I can basically use JavaScript to enumerate all of the applications that are installed on the box. So ICAT supports all of the commercial kiosk platforms on Windows. You essentially visit this page from the kiosk, and it'll tell you this is the kiosk you're using, or this is the product the kiosk is based on. It also supports all sort of Microsoft applications, .NET, Java, Windows Media Player, Office. It'll tell you what's installed on the kiosk, which becomes very useful later on when we actually start exploiting the kiosk. We can display local browser variables, so we can determine the underlying kiosk browser technology. So msinet.ocx and winhttp.dll actually display Internet Explorer app versions. You can see in this kiosk that I visited, it says your navigator.app version, app name is Microsoft Internet Explorer. I wasn't actually using IE, I was using a kiosk browser. So this tells me that this kiosk browser is written using standard Microsoft Internet Explorer libraries. This also allows me to detect the presence of the .NET CLR. I can also display remote server variables, so I can discover the remote IP address of the kiosk terminal. Maybe I can see if the kiosk terminal is part of a corporate LAN environment, or if it's on a separate ADSL connection. I have all the common browser dialogues in one place. So I have file open, file save, print, print preview. Basically a big list. You click, 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 and you can see what's blocked by the kiosk and what's not blocked by the kiosk. It's a very fast method of enumerating the blacklist, basically finding holes in the blacklist. That's the whole approach. That's the whole trick, is finding the one thing that's not covered by the blacklist. We can also use Flash to invoke common dialogues. So Adobe Flash is by far the most widely used browser plugin in the world. It's got something like 44 million users or something crazy like that. Now, ActionScript 3 can actually invoke 3 file view containing dialogues. Now, each of these dialogues has a unique dialogue title, such as a select file for upload, select files for upload, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the unique dialogue title is actually quite important because, as I said previously, the kiosks use blacklists of all the in-focus dialogues that are banned or prohibited. So let's say the kiosk is blocking the dialog choose file. It won't be blocking the dialog select file for upload. So you can then bypass the blacklist and get a file view containing dialog to pop up. So the blacklists fail again. Now, spawning applications on the kiosk. Can we cause an application or a process to spawn on the kiosk? Maybe we can use the spawn application to invoke a common dialog. Maybe you can use the spawn application to invoke cmd.exe or browse the file system. So ICAT contains all the default Windows URI handlers. Things like call to, gopher, HTTP, telnet, TN3270, rlogin, LDAP, et cetera, et cetera. Now what I've done is I have a little one-click automation button where you click something and basically shit just starts popping up. Everything on the system that can pop up essentially will pop up. So it's a very fast method of just getting something that's not the kiosk browser to pop up. I also support all third-party URI handlers, MMS, Skype, ZIP, Play, Stream, QuickTime, etc. So one of the best tricks I found with this is using the HCP control, the HCP command handler. So this is the Help and Support Center. Now if you click a link, such as this link, HCP dummy, click me, and you click that link, the Help and Support Center will pop up on your Windows operating system. Now, if you use the Help and Support Center and you search for what you want to execute, such as command prompt, you'll get this nice little page which says, oh, the MS-DOS overview. The command prompt is amazing. You can run tools using the command prompt, such and such. Please click here to launch the command prompt. And it gives you a nice left-click only button which will launch the command prompt, which again is really good if you don't have a right-click button. It's also interesting to note that only a couple of the kiosks I tested actually detect this dialog popping up saying Help and Support Center. Most of the kiosks don't actually detect this. So ICAP provides links to over 100 URI handlers. Essentially what I wanted was you could just click down a list, just keep click, 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 and see what happens, and see what pops up, and see what doesn't. You can determine which handlers are covered by the kiosk blacklist and which are not. It also contains all the local security zone handlers. So I was talking about previously, you know, like the control panel inside Internet Explorer. Hey, that's a really cool trick. However, remembering that class ID when I'm at the airport, I'm not going to do. So I thought, well, I may as well just have a web page where all of these things are. So you can basically just go down the list, copy, paste, enter, enter, and see what happens. You can also invoke applications using file type handlers. So let's say you click a file, test.myfile, using IE. Windows will try and spawn the myfile file type handler. Now, ICAT uses DHTML and JavaScript to try and invoke 108 unique file handlers. So you can see that little box that pops up. Essentially, that starts from like a .avi and ends at .x something something. So it tries every common file type in Windows to see even it can get a file type handler to spawn. And as I show you in the demo, this works very effectively for getting third-party applications to pop up, which you can use to escape the kiosk. Now, one of the interesting things that Internet Explorer supports is called promptless handler execution. So, give an example here. If you click a file, say test.wmv, you'll find that Internet Explorer will just pop up Windows Media Player. Windows Media Player will just spawn. There won't be any dialogue. There won't be any prompt saying, hey, you know, are you sure you want to spawn Windows Media Player? It'll just pop up. Now, this is really useful for us because the kiosk is monitoring all of these prompt pop-ups. It's monitoring everything that appears. So if we can get an application to launch without that prompt, then we have a higher chance of getting around the kiosk blacklist. This is decided or chosen by the edit flags Boolean variable that's set under the file type handler. If the third bit is a 1, you don't get any prompt. So I thought, hey, this is really cool. I can get Windows Media Player to pop up on a kiosk. What can I do with Windows Media Player? What cool functionality does Windows Media Player have? I found this very interesting thing called Web Enhanced Content. So I can have a Windows Media Player playlist file that says, hey, actually, I'm just referencing a website. Windows Media Player will say, oh, you've clicked on Web Enhanced Content. The exact phrase is, the enhanced content you're about to play uses the following web page. You should only open web pages from sources that you trust. This little dialog box pops up. Now, interesting to note here that none of the kiosks I tested actually detect that dialog box popping up. However, when you click yes, you'll see in this second little picture there, Windows Media Player pops up, and there's a website inside it. Essentially, what you can do is use Windows Media Player as a browser. That's just really useful because when Windows Media Player is a browser, it doesn't contain any of the kiosk security controls. You get a native or a virgin browser, which is very, very easy to break out of, much easier than the kiosk browser. So we can use a third-party application to become a browser and then escape back to the file system. Okay, ICAT and Office documents. Pretty much, I determined if you have an Office file type viewer installed on a kiosk, you win, hands down. So I found this a pretty nifty little trick that you can embed an arbitrary executable inside pretty much any Office document file format, from doc, docx, XLS, XSLB, et cetera, et cetera. And when you open up the document inside your Word file type viewer, you'll see this little icon like this. It says cmd.exe, and you can tell like, that there's a package or that there's something there. And if you double-click that, this little dialog box pops up saying, open package contents. The package you're about to open will run a program. This program could do anything. It could harm your computer.